Greetings and welcome to Meet a CHM Family Member. My name is Cory MacDonald. I am the Patient Engagement Director for the Choroideremia Research Foundation. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Biogen, Spark Therapeutics, and Santen, who allow us to do these things. And my guest tonight is a very good friend. I'm so excited to have her. We're going to have some fun. Her name is Kristen Ging. She is from Huntington Station, New York. Kristen, I'm so happy you're joining us. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, Cory. It's great to be here.
Yeah. Now, Kristen, you have and we were talking about this before we started recording, but you have a very unique perspective with choroideremia. You are a carrier and a mom of two sons who are affected. Your mom is also a carrier, and you have two brothers who are also affected. So it's literally surrounded by CHM growing up. So and we'll delve into that a little bit more. And you're also a special ed teacher, which I find out now. Did you get into special ed because you had to grow up with two brothers?
I never actually really made that connection, but that could have been part of my inspiration. Yes.
So anyways, let's get into let me go to the glasses here so I can read the questions. Okay. Now, how has the CHM personally affected you?
Well, personally, it's affected me. It's been in my world and in my life since I was a child. It started with my grandfather, actually. My grandfather had choroideremia. We didn't know it. He was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa back in, must have been the 30s or 40s. So I grew up with my grandfather being blind and very much actually kind of normalizing it for me in a way, if that makes sense, because the way that he handled it, he didn't complain about it. And he really didn't let it affect his life, as I'm sure it did, but he never let on that it did. He had a job. He had a business in New York City. He had a family of 4 kids and a wife. He owned a home. He went to work every day. And he did everything that, a sighted person would do. And and I had a million questions for him when I was little about being blind. You know how kids are. They're so, unfiltered. And I'd say, Poppy, why are you blind? And he'd describe it to me in the most simplistic of terms. He'd say, well, Kristen, it started from the outside and it worked its way in until I could see only through a straw. And then it just kept closing in until I couldn't see anymore. And I would, say, well, does it hurt? Are you upset? And does it bother you? Don't you want to see? And all those questions that kids ask. And I would ask him this constantly. It wasn't like I asked him one time and that was so. I would ask him these same questions every time I saw him. So I was obviously very interested in it and I was concerned for him. But as I said, he played it down. He would say, Kristen, I have my health. I'm very healthy. I have a good life. I just can't see. That's all. And he was able to adapt to it so well. He really enjoyed books on tape. So he would read books on tape. He was able to get himself around independently. And like I said, it was very normal for me. All my friends would say, oh, I feel so sorry for your grandpa. He's blind. And I'd say, he's fine, because that's what he used to say all the time. I'm fine. So I basically started saying the same thing when people would ask me about it. Then when I got older and I was in my late 20s, my brothers were diagnosed with choroideremia, both of my brothers. And that was a much different feeling because it wasn't normal for them to be blind. It was what I knew with my grandfather, but it was not what I knew for my brothers. My brothers had their sight. They were born with their sight. And we were kind of watching things start to happen with them and them being affected by the disease. So then they were diagnosed when I was in my late 20s. And that was a very big shock to my family. My poor brothers, that was so traumatic for them, and how it affected them and our family was that it completely changed their life path. they had plans. Kevin was a kid and he had plans and wanted to go to college and wanted to, at that time, I think, go into journalism. And my brother EJ was older and he was pursuing a career in acting. And so basically it blew up their world. My mother had a nervous breakdown. It blew up all of our worlds. I, at the time, was married, and my husband and I were talking about having a child. And then I was tested and found out that I was a carrier. So then that played into our family planning. So it's affected me my whole life, really. It hasn't affected me quite the same way it's affected the men in my life who actually have choroideremia and can't see. So, obviously you guys have it a hell of a lot worse than the carriers do. And I admire everyone around me and how they deal with it and what they're going through so much. My brothers have really been a great example for my boys, and how they're dealing with everything. And they're really quite inspirational. And I'm glad that my boys have them to look up to. But of course, I see my brothers, and it's kind of a strange feeling. And I understand the perspective, because here I see my brothers going through it, and it's so disturbing for me to see them go through it, and I feel awful for them. And then at the same time, though, there's a whole other feeling, because as I'm watching my brothers, I'm thinking about my boys and their future. Is this going to be them? Is this their future? Is this what they're going to look like when they're 30 and 40 years old? And I know my parents look at that too. They have their sons, and now they're looking at their grandchildren, and they're concerned about that. So choroideremia has affected our family for many, many generations, as it will continue to do. So yeah, we're surrounded by it, and it's definitely changed all of our paths. With my kids, though, with the research, and I know that you wanted to get into this, but it's kind of all flowing out. I'm feeling a little bit more hopeful, and I'm hoping my kids are in a different position than my brothers were, and certainly my grandfather, because we caught them early, and they've been protecting themselves and protecting their eyes since they were born. I think now there's a lot more options for people as well with disabilities. And what I'm a huge fan of, and being a special education teacher and being a family of choroideremia, is the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is huge. And I talk about it to my parents, my students' parents at school, and I talk to my own kids about it. And I think that that's really important moving forward, because your life planning doesn't necessarily have to change now, because you cannot be discriminated against for being blind. So for instance, my son Liam wants to be a veterinarian, and I'm encouraging him to follow his dream. Nobody's going to tell Liam that he cannot be a veterinarian because he's blind. And there are laws to protect him, and there are laws in place. I mean, of course, a person has to prove they can do the whatever job that is, whether they're blind and they have the disability. But there are in place that can protect people with choroideremia now to be able to make a living, to be able to follow their dreams, to be able to do the occupations that they want to do. And I'm really encouraging my boys to just go after what they want and not change their life path. Just whatever it is that you're passionate about, whatever it is you want to do, what you love, will support you. And you can do it now, because we have laws in place that will protect you.
Yeah, and not just the laws too, but with technology being the way, the advances in technology are allowing a lot of people with low vision to be able to extend their careers when before they wouldn't be able to. And
Exactly.
that too is a big thing. You know that there is a CHMer who is a veterinarian who's in the support group on Facebook.
I did not know that, but that's really good to know.
Yeah. He actually, it was funny. He wasn't getting definitively diagnosed. He started doing some research, and he's a veterinarian, and he ended up diagnosing himself correctly with choroideremia.
Wow.
Before, I was like, hey, smart guy.
Yeah.
So anyway, so now speaking of your boys now, and you mentioned about protecting them. So what adjustments have you made as a mom to help them with CHM. I mean, obviously, and you mentioned that the, EJ and Kev are both, great role models, and, they're my brothers. They're Kevin's a little delusional because he's a Giants fan, but other than that, he's, but I've always viewed them as like my little brothers. And, your mom and I, as you know, she's one of my all-time great friends. And so really it's almost like an extended family.
It
So
is.
now, but what kind of adjustments have you helped, for your boys, to help them in dealing with CHM in their lives?
Well, it started with sunglasses when they were babies, keeping them out of the sun, hats and glasses every time they're outside, spinach every day in their diets, and they're actually very good about that. And also, basically every year I have to write a letter to their school and their teachers to tell them that my kids have to wear sunglasses for all outdoor events, such as fire drills, such as recess, such as physical education. And they have to wear their sunglasses, because what I found when my kids were very little and I was, scrambling to get their glasses on them when they were babies, I'd get snide looks or comments from other mothers that thought that it was just for vanity reasons or trending reasons that I was trying to put these glasses on my babies, And so people's ignorance can be really mind-blowing sometimes. And you find yourself almost feeling like you have to explain yourself when you really shouldn't have to explain yourself, But when it comes to school, that is different, because the school really should know what's going on with the boys and why they're taking their glasses out. And so I make that clear every year in letters to the school. And the school districts have been really good. The boys have spare pairs of sunglasses at school in case they break them or lose them or something. So the teachers in the district has been really good about helping to keep their glasses on during those sunny days, because, as a kid, they don't even think about it or care or necessarily want to wear them at the time. And so the support of the school district was really helpful in those moments where they just forgot or they didn't feel like it. So luckily for us, my kids, knock on wood, we've actually had them tested recently, and thank God, and I can't knock on enough wood here all over the place. They have not, according to the doctor and according to the exam, they have not lost any peripheral vision as of yet.
Wow.
They're holding on, and we're doing something right. So Liam is 16, Aiden is 12, and so far they're holding on, and they haven't lost any of their vision yet. So we're going to keep what we're doing. We're going to keep it up, keeping their eyes protected, keeping the vitamins and the healthy diets, and, just kind of wait it out, and hopefully hope for the best. We love all that's going on with the research community. And we're just waiting for that, for that breakthrough.
Awesome. Now, and I know this can be a touchy subject with carrier moms, but guilt. When your boys were diagnosed, did you have any, like, feelings of guilt or questioning whether or not, what to do and that kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All of that goes through your head. And I felt guilty, not necessarily for passing it on to them, which I know that other moms have that guilt for passing it on to them. I knew that I couldn't really control that. I felt guilty because there wasn't anything I can do about it. That's really where my guilt comes from mostly. Because as a mom, they get a cut, you put a Band-Aid on it, you can kiss it and make it better. And that's what moms want to be able to do. Broken leg, injuries, we can somehow, a cold, the flu, we can make it better, and I think moms are used to that. But with choroideremia, there's literally nothing that we can do other than, what we have been doing with their glasses and the diets and all that. So the guilt came in that I can't kiss and make him better. I can't fix it. You know, there's no quick fix. I have to wait it out. I mean, we can do fundraisers and raise money and awareness, which is what everybody's doing, and everyone's so wonderful about that. But it's not this. It's not what moms want and what we're looking for. Like I said, we want a quick fix. We want to just say, okay, here it's fixed, it's better, and you'll be fine. You know, and we can't say that to our kids right now. So for me, that's where the guilt is really kind of coming in more so.
And, you know, I've gotten that from dads as well, because, you know, dads are fixers.
Yeah.
You know, pipe is leaking, I can fix that. Let me grab my wrench, you know, and it's that same attitude of they want to try to fix it. You know, I mean, my mother was extremely guilty forever. And I told her, and, you know, and you mentioned that, you know, we have it rough. And I've always thought that, you know, okay, yeah, we're losing our sight, but we're not the one having to watch our child lose their sight. And that's something that, you know, that's a different type of emotional upheaval. And so I've always admired the moms, because they're strong people, you know, especially your mom. Your mom's the best.
My mom's amazing. She really is.
Your mom is the best. I'm going to get her on one of these interviews.
She is the best.
So now I'm trying to remember, have you ever been to an actual conference, a CRF conference?
Yes, I was there a couple of years ago. It was Dallas. Was it Dallas?
Yep.
And it was the first one I had gone to, because it's the end of June, and as a teacher, it was always really hard for me to get away. It's right when I'm wrapping up my class and that kind of stuff. So it was hard for me to get away the years prior to that. But I went to Dallas, and I was so impressed by it. And it was it had a huge impact on me, to be honest. It had a huge impact on me. Before that conference, my husband and I had made a conscious decision not to tell our kids they had choroideremia until they were old enough to process it and understand it. So we hadn't told them up until that point. And so when I went, I saw all these kids running around who either had choroideremia or were siblings of people who had choroideremia, or children of people with choroideremia, and how everyone was so open about it. And it kind of just gave me a kick that said, you know, it might be time to tell Liam and Aiden what's going on, because this was do you remember how many years ago it was, Cory, Dallas?
Yeah, that was 2018.
Okay, so that was about 3 years ago. So Liam was 13 and Aiden was about 10. So at that point, I thought that they could kind of process it a little bit better, that being a little bit older. And there wasn't any kind of telling one of them and not telling the other one. So we told them both. And at that time, we also kicked off a fundraiser, Cooling Off for CHM, that summer. So I wanted to send them a message that, yes, you have this, but we're not going to just sit around and take it. We're going to get out there and do something about it. And I wanted them involved in their own disease and raising money for it. And so it was kind of you know, if it can be a nice way, I don't know if that's really the right term, but it was, you know, the best way I could think of to kind of introduce it to them and have them gain some kind of understanding about how to deal with it. Because I think there, you know, how do you teach your kids how to deal with it? You know, there's no playbook for it, and everyone's going to handle things differently. And, you know, when you're talking about kids, you know, there's so many things that they don't really understand. The scale of things, the perspective is so different. So I was concerned about how they would process all of that. And it's still being processed. We're still kind of going through it. Liam is a little bit more emotional about it, where Aiden kind of bottles it up. So they're both handling it very differently. But it is a discussion that we all, we have every day, and it's something we face every day because they know they're wearing their glasses every day. The diet, the school. My brothers are here around us all the time. Kevin is only a mile down the road, and so it's around us. No matter if we want to avoid it or not, we can't. It's everywhere. So it's just a matter of trying to navigate the healthiest way of handling it. And I think we're still kind of figuring that out, really.
Learning to, I've always taken the stance of, it's a constant period of adjustment.
Exactly.
You don't adjust once. You adjust throughout your lifetime. And I've always one of my inspirations I've always taken is the quote from Bruce Lee about being water and learning to flow. And yeah, he's talking about fighting, but something, we're in a fight.
Yeah.
And so it's quite applicable in this case, and really doing the fundraising aspect of it. You're stepping into the fight. You're taking an active role, and it's that's something that's a lot of people overlook in the fundraising and advocacy and raising awareness aspect of things. Is it's empowering. It can be quite empowering, and that's a very healthy way to do it. It's a lot better than just sitting around waiting to go blind.
Absolutely.
Let's put it that way. So now, what was your favorite part about going to a conference? This is a question I love asking people because everybody comes away from different things,
For me, there's two. It was really interesting hearing from the doctors because how often do I get to talk to one of the researchers? Never. So that was really interesting hearing directly from them. And I so appreciated that they took the time out of their schedules to come and speak at our conference. I thought that was really incredible that they did that. And the second part was the mothers, really. They now I'm getting a little choked up. They were so amazing. They welcomed me with open arms. I was very, very emotional at that conference because I started realizing that I had to tell them, and I didn't know how I was going to do that, and and I was incredibly emotional for the entire weekend, and the moms could see that, and they kind of took me under their wing, and they helped me through it and gave me some really great and sound advice. And I just think they're amazing. They're just amazing. CHM moms are amazing.
Well, how do you feel about the research, and what are your kind of overview on how the research is going and where it's going?
Well, when I think about when we first came into the CRF, right, we didn't have a fraction of what's going on right now. So in terms of progress, I mean, I'm incredibly impressed, and I'm thrilled in terms of progress because we've come 1000% from where we were. Just like everyone else, though, I have to be measured in it because we don't have anything accessible for us right now. And we don't know, the hope is there, and I'm thrilled about the hope because the hope is so important, and we have that to hold on to, and it's so necessary. And like I said, the improvements and the progress that's been made is so appreciated and so wonderful. But until I can say, when can I go to the doctor and have my kids cured? Until that moment comes, I don't know how I feel about it. I'm glad that the progress is there, but until we can use it, until we can actually use it and have it as a cure, I'm going to just be cautiously optimistic about it because we've been very optimistic for a long time, and we've been going through decades of promises of 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and here we are. And yes, we're having progress, but we are not cured. And I think that I'm very impatient in that respect. I'm very happy. Thank you for the progress, but until we're cured, I'm not going to fully really be thrilled about it.
Yeah, I can
You
say
know?
that. Yeah, it's been a, and because your family's been within the CRF almost as long as the CRF has been around. I mean, I remember meeting your mom and dad the first time when they showed up at the first fundraiser I ever held, which was a beer tasting
Mhm.
in Springfield, and it was kind of funny because your mom and dad came to that one, and at the same time, Janet Rowley and Tim Rowley came to that beer tasting as well, and they too were brand new to the CRF. So both families that ended up becoming integral parts of the CRF um, kind of joined at the same time. I've always looked back on that, and but yeah, your mom was, and I remember that she was kind of in full blown panic mode at that point. But we had a very long talk. She's been she's yeah, she's one of my good ones. So and speaking of the CRF, let me put on, I got to go to the glasses here. Okay. What does the CRF mean to you? And how has the CRF affected your life?
It's everything. I mean, without it, we wouldn't have anybody working on choroideremia. Nobody would know about choroideremia. There would be no trials. There would be no research. There would be nothing. So the CRF is everything for us. It's everything. It's our hope. It's our future. It's everything. And all of the work, and Cory, your team, and everything that everybody's done has been just incredible. And like you said, we kind of got in on the ground up about, what was it, 20 years ago?
Yeah, 2003.
About 20 years ago. And without the CRF, I think it would have been a total game changer. I don't think we would be where the choroideremia certainly would not be where we are with research. And as far personally with my family, we would have had no place to turn. So we all probably would have gone completely crazy if we didn't have the CRF also, because it's been an amazing support system for us, and to talk to people who are going through the same thing you are, and to have a disease that's one of the rarest diseases, known to man. It's nice to have a community of people that you can talk to and go to,
Yeah, that's something that I've been admonished at times over the years for not taking time off. Even when I'm on vacation, I'm available, and I've always said, especially for someone who was just diagnosed, or a parent of a child who was just diagnosed, they're looking for information, they're looking for support, they're looking for somebody to be there.
Mhm.
And I don't want that person to go to a voicemail.
Right.
And that's
Well,
just it's just the way it has to be.
well, kudos to you, Cory. I
It's
mean,
not
I
a
really appreciate everything that you've done.
it's a labor of love, my friend. If I didn't love what I do, I have the best job in the world. I get to help other people. How can you go wrong with that? So anyway, do you have any think about you 16 years ago? Okay. Some life advice for a mom, for a new mom, or for someone who knows she's a carrier and is thinking about having children but isn't quite sure. What give me, open it up here, Chris, and let's get some life advice here.
Well, for the mother because I was in that position, I just found out about choroideremia and we wanted to have a baby. So we did stop and talk about it. I couldn't imagine saying no, though, and not going through with it because of choroideremia. I mean, my boys have had beautiful lives and a beautiful childhood right now. And luckily for them, even though they have choroideremia, they have yet to really feel the impact of it, thank goodness. So to those mothers out there that are thinking about having a child, have your child. Your child, even if the worst happens, You know, even if the worst happens and your child loses their sight, it doesn't mean that they won't have a beautiful life. And I do really believe that for those babies or soon to be babies, the future is very bright. There's so much hope and there's so much going on. The chances of the younger generations actually really going blind and losing their sight, I think, is getting less and less, and is going to be more and more rare as time goes on. So I would just say hang in there, and don't let the choroideremia diagnosis keep you from having your family. I think that'd be a huge mistake.
Awesome. And I can't think of a better way to end the interview. Kristen, thank you. Thank you so much. This has been good. It's been good to catch up with you. I mean, we live so far away from each other. We should,
It was good to see you, Cory, and thank you so much for having me.
All right. And thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you at the next one.